Hello friends, and welcome to one of the more unusual videos on my channel because we are going to do a hot glue gun craft project and I'm so excited about it. I made light up Wreath and Mickey ears and I want to teach you how to do it. If you are interested in learning how to do this, keep watching. Okay, let's go over what you will need to do this. You will need some headbands. I got these at the dollar store. I went to Michael's, but they apparently don't carry headbands anymore. So the dollar store gets you two for $1. We're going to strip off the outside of that with this tool, seam ripper. So feel free to get whatever color you want. You're gonna need some of this wreath material. You're gonna want some glue and a hot glue gun. Some lights. So these are battery operated lights. Also have some ribbon. Some parchment paper. I hot glue gun on top of parchment paper because the glue bubbles blop onto that and then you can just pick them up and throw them away. So that, you know, you can clear your palette every once in a while. You're gonna need some scissors, maybe some nippers, a Sharpie is a good idea, and then an abundance of foliage. I have pre-picked off a bunch of this foliage, which I will show you how to do in just a second. Most of it comes in a way that you can cut it off. You obviously don't need this much foliage, but you need a lot more than you think you do. Also, I'd recommend you go tackier than you normally would. Like, I thought this was pretty out of control. Turns out this actually looks really great. So, and it looks, you're gonna want to get some of this regular sort of foliage. Don't go too much into this because really, that's just background. You actually want shiny, sparkly stuff to go on the outside. You can bling the entire thing out if you want. Like, I got some really crazy stuff that I thought I would try one for. Probably not this video, but I thought I would show it to you anyway. This stuff looks like fireworks. I really like this. I might incorporate some of that in this one, I'm not sure. There's some wreaths. This guy has jingle bells on it too. Different levels of pine cones and little red berries and stuff. I have pre-picked them all and put them into bowls where I could. I put one into a bag because this is how I'm going to store it eventually, but honestly, this is a pain in the butt to deal with, so I wouldn't recommend that. I do have some wire over there. You don't really need it. Sometimes you do. You're going to get some wire that is going to come on this thing, and that is the wire. This will provide you with way more wire than you ever need, so just get these. This came from Michael's, and all of this stuff right now is on crazy sale at Michael's. So, and right after Christmas, even more so. So it's a great time to go get some of this stuff if you're going to want to do this year or even next year. I've literally had this sitting in my craft room for a year and a half. That is why this video is happening, so I can get this stuff out of my craft room. I also have Ye Olde Power Strip ready to go. So the first thing I like to do is just go ahead and denude the foliage. It usually comes on this like sort of pop off way, so you can just like pop some off. And then I throw that into bowls to keep it separated, but you know, no shame, you do you. If you want it to be in bigger bunches, you can just like snip off some. That's why you have these nippers. But I think that for the most part, all I ever wanted to do was make them smaller, so I think probably just popping them off where they naturally pop off is probably pretty good. And in this case, we're left with this weird little pitchfork pike that I find very amusing. This foliage can be purchased super cheap right about now because Michael's and all those places that sell this sort of thing are having big sales on them right after Christmas, so definitely get on over there if you have time, and if you're allowed to go out, do wear your mask and grab yourself some Christmas foliage. Okay, so the first thing you're going to want to do is get your headband naked. So I just take my seam ripper and find the seam and make some sort of hole. And once that hole is made, you can just slide your headband on out, which is great. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is get this wreath material free. What is even this stuff called? I will keep wanting to call it raffia, but nope, no name for this. Cool. And it's usually covered with wire, so I go ahead and unwrap this wire. And you do want to save this because it is useful. so we have the wood stuff free at this point. I have made a pair of ears that were about an inch less in diameter than this circle is, because this is way too big, and those were comically large. So what we're gonna do is use some of the wire that we just pulled off of here and this stuff and make smaller circles. Usually this is very woven together though, sort of like it goes in and out of itself. So I like to untangle the whole thing and make it into a smooth coil so it's easier to work with first. And that sort of takes a while, so just work it on out. You can also cut this in half if it makes you feel better. It's easier to go ahead and work with it in smaller chunks. There's no problem in doing that. And you can also go from both ends. We are going to make it smaller and kind of do this back, so it's a very confusing process. So we have actually two pieces, which is fantastic. This is actually way better. So I'm gonna go ahead and take this and push this coil down way smaller. Before I get started, I'm just gonna nip off a few pieces. They need to be like, what is this? For people who actually want to know distances. I cut off like 4 inches at a time. It doesn't matter what the actual size is. You just need to be able to like wrap it around a few times. You're basically making a twist tie. So just eyeball it, it's fine. It's not an exact science. And I would definitely make this smaller than you think it needs to be, because the foliage is also going to increase the diameter of your ear. So that needs to be taken into account. And I check it by putting it on next to this headband, and it is still comically large at this point. Like, that is still bigger than you think it's gonna be, because we're gonna have a bunch of foliage on that. So I would make it even smaller than this. Another method you can use is to get the first ring that you have as small as you want it, and then tie that one down, and then just match the rest of it. And I'm gonna check it against that. Yeah, that's pretty good. So I'll take one of these little things I made and I will tie this guy down. And I just wrap it around like a coil, and it'll hold pretty well. And then you can take it and spin it until it's all of that size. And if you want to cut a few more of these, you can, and just put them in as you go if your wood is being problematic. Just go ahead and strap that down. So that's pretty good. Great. And I'm gonna go ahead and tie this guy down, and I probably will cut another one. Or take this initial one back off and reuse it. If you have two sets of these that are pretty thin, you can go ahead and put them together. You can leave this like this. I'm gonna go ahead and add this guy back on here and sort of weave it in and out to give it more of a wreathy look. You do you, basically. Whatever you want to do is great. And you can start this guy out by just sort of shoving it into one of the tied down areas. So here we are with the completed wreath. You could see I was winding it through and around to give it that kind of woven look throughout the process of putting the second batch back on. So that's all that takes. The complicated part now is to make another one that is the exact same size. Okay, so now I have two of approximately the same size. I sit here doing this for hours going, is it exactly the, it's not ever going to be exactly the same, but you're going to put a bunch of stuff on it, so be like Elsa, just let it go. So the next thing you want to do is, you're going to wear your headband actually more like this, but you want to look at where your ears need to be. They are wider set than you think you're going to want them. So what I like to do is go ahead and just set this like this, have a good look, make sure they're the way I want them, and then go ahead and mark this with a Sharpie so that I know where I'm sticking them. Once I do that, I will also take a measuring tape and just measure and make sure they're approximately in the same place, and if they're not, I will make them in the same place. Remarkably, they are basically in the same place. That's fantastic. So now we're gonna get the hot glue gun fired up and get started with wrapping this guy. Alright, now we are going to wrap the headband. The first thing I like to do is go ahead and take a small piece of ribbon here and glue gun it down over the very tip of this headband, because as you can see, it's kind of sharp. It has a weird little jagged point right there. It just looks cleaner. So I just put some glue onto the end of there. You're all gonna yell at me about my glue gun technique. It's fine. And then I just sort of squish it on there, get it nice and good. And then I put some here on the other end. I usually use less than this, but this is what was given to me. So I also back this guy off when I'm not using it. And I make sure it's nice and tight, and then just squish it down and let it cool like that. Like so, like that, as Tabitha would say. I can pick up this little extra blob that's coming out. It's coming out. It's coming out. And shove it on the other side. Like so. And there's no method here. Just get that puppy on there. And it's fine that it's like squared off. It will get sorted out in a minute. Don't you worry. I like to clean up my glue strings as I go you do you in that way. I'm a tidier, so this is me. Next thing I like to do is take a lot of ribbon, just a lot, like a ridiculous amount, because like, let's just say like a wingspan is what I'm taking, and I'm gonna wrap that around this, and it's probably too much ribbon. You guys can measure it out if you want to. You can sit here trying to shove this thing through here all the time to wrap, it's a pain in the butt. Just cut some off. We're doing Christmas crafts. It's okay to be a little bit wasteful. Oh, we already have glue bubbles going. I'm sure there's some of you in the comments screaming right now, there's glue falling, Noelle. I can hear you right now. So, I'm gonna take a little bit and stick it on the end of this guy. And then back it back off again. And I stick it up a little bit higher on the inside, higher than the edge. And I let it cool for just a minute. And then I'm gonna wrap down, around, and back up. So, and you can tuck these guys down if you want, like if you feel like getting fiddly about it, go for it. I find that it doesn't really matter all that much. Nobody's policing this. It's kind of nice if on this end one you do just a straight wrap. And then I like to throw a little dot in here. Always dot on the inside. And then I've been wrapping in a spiral up to your mark to go ahead and attach these guys. So I wrap, you know, 3 or 4 spirals, and then I will stick a dot on the inside of glue. And I'm wrapping pretty tight right here so that the spiral is close together, but I get looser as I go up. All right, we're almost to our mark. I'm definitely gonna stick a dot in before the mark. And then I'm gonna put a bunch of glue down between the 2 lines that I made. And this glue is not super functional, it's just holding it for a minute. I find the sort of flattest side of this I can, and I stick it down. And then you're gonna wrap, I wrap 3 times in here. And this is not completely stable yet when you do that, so don't worry about it if it flops all over the place. It's gonna be fine. Okay, when I get to the end, I'm gonna go down and do a straight wrap on the end again. Like as close to it as I can get. And maybe stick a glue dot in there. And then come back up a little bit to finish off. And how I do that is I cut it a little bit long and I tuck it under and I glue it down. And if that's messy, don't worry about it. Mine's a little messy. I'm gonna put something on top of that, so it's totally fine. This is when it's an advantage to have long nails because you can stick them on hot glue and it's fine. And then I clean up a little bit, and these look real far apart right now, but when you have them on your head, because you're stretching this out, they actually look more even. So don't worry about how far apart they are. This is where I will go try them on though and look. Okay, I actually think they're perfect. I love how spaced apart they are. I think they look great. And I'm ready to foliage it up now. I'm gonna go ahead and attach the lights next. I'm not going to wrap them yet, I'm just going to attach them. I wrap mid-foliage, which is kind of an alternate way of doing it, but it hides more of the wires, but still lets the lights be on top. Witness the beauty of the parchment paper. All these glue dots. Be gone. So nice. Okay, please be aware that I mean, this seems obvious. There are cool lights and there are warm lights. These are cool lights. They are blue. They're really white, but they're blue. These are warm lights. They're yellow. They're really white, but they're yellow. So it just depends on what you want to do, but make sure when you order, you look at whether your lights are cool or warm, and whichever one you want, use those. I am going to use warm lights in this particular case. Cool lights actually sort of show up a lot better. Warm lights just feel warm, so I'm going to use that for right now. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and attach the lights to the situation. I like to use the side in which I have created the mess on the inside, which is where it ended. So that's up to you. Some people, if you can get one of these that is a smaller case, you can set it up in here. That works sometimes. This one is a bit too wide for that, even with it spread out. It doesn't really attach very well. You can attach them to the top, and then you just have to deal with foliage all around it. I just stick it in here. So that's what I'm going to do. The lead line on these is much longer than in some cases, so you also should look at that when you order them. And what I mean by that is that there's this line that goes for quite a while before you actually get to light bulbiness. See how there's all this extra stuff here? So what I do is I go ahead and I stick this in here, and then I wrap that lead line all the way around so to take up some of the slack, and then I wrap it around there, and then I throw it up and around. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that right now, and I just use glue dots along the edge to make that stable. Okay, another pro tip is if you have one that has screws in it, make sure the screws are facing out, because that way you can unscrew this, open this up, and then change the battery if you need to. Okay, so the next thing I do is a little bit scary, but it helps with stabilization a lot. I take my glue gun and I shove it in these holes right here, like all the way into this situation, and I pump a bunch of glue in there on both sides, and I fill it up. And I do that on each of the 4 sides that I can enter on, just to get everything nice and secure. That's up to you if you want to do it. It works for me. And then I just let that dry for a few. Let it get nice and cool in there. And do a little cleanup work while I'm sitting here. Okay, now is where we start attaching foliage. I have been attaching foliage to the outside and then some of the inside and then sort of filling in the frontal area. You do you. The way that I do this is I attach some to the inside and some to the outside, and I don't go all the way to the top either, weirdly, and then I wrap. And then I add all the little stuff in because I feel like it lets you bury some of the wires underneath some of it, but it still keeps the lights up front. So that's what I'm gonna do now. And really, it's just a matter of spot gluing some of these amazing pieces inside and outside and all around it. So enjoy your time lapse. Okay, so I do like putting some fancy schmancy stuff on the outside, and then I will put a bunch of sort of flurry things in here while I work on my layer one. I also frequently cut off this little nubbin that happens down here because there's no need for it really. Okay, so I have some inside and some outside, but it's definitely not a build out, right? This is where I'm going to wrap lights. You wrap lights however you want to wrap lights. You can do it at the beginning, you can do it at the end, you can do it in the middle, you can do it in a completely different spot than me. This is just what I'm choosing to do. I'm making sure that I take I've decided that this is the front. I'm making sure to take my lead around the back. This wire is a little bit longer than that, so I'm gonna wrap it around this very tightly underneath as close as I can here. And then that'll be okay because I'll cover it with some foliage. I really just like saying foliage. And then I will start lighting this baby up. And while you watch this montage, I thought it would be a good time to let you know that this video is kindly sponsored by Audible. You guys know how much I love Audible. You know that I'm always listening to it while I'm sewing, while I'm driving, while I'm doing everything else in my life. I bet you guys are wondering what I'm listening to right now while I'm making these ears. It is a book called Children of Blood and Bone by Tomi Adeyemi, and she is a Nigerian-American novelist who writes a book about a girl who is a magi, and she is on a mission to restore magic to the kingdom of Orisha, which has been taken over and magic has been all but banished in her kingdom. Morgan and I are reading this book for our podcast, as per usual. We love to listen to audiobooks for our podcast as it lets us go ahead and get our sewing done and get fodder for our podcast at the exact same time. I get to a point where I can't really watch TV shows and programming and stuff like that while I'm sewing. If it's new, I can watch stuff that's old. But audiobooks are a way that lets me interact with new content while I'm getting something else done. It's really great when I'm cleaning the house or washing the dishes, or remember back in the day when we used to drive places, I would listen to audiobooks. Man, Audible saved me when I used to have an hour-and-a-half commute. There was a point at which I had a 2.5-hour commute, and I listened to 2 audiobooks a week back then, and I don't know what I would have done without that. So Audible is definitely something that's in my life. It makes me happy. It provides me with hours and hours and tons of beautiful podcasts, memoirs, fantasy novels, everything you can imagine. I learned a ton about YouTube and running a business from listening to audiobooks from Audible. They also have podcasts, which I really like, and they have a new thing called Audible Plus, which lets you have basically an unlimited subscription to their Audible Plus library, which is a subset of their main library. But man, there is tons and tons of stuff in there. They have comedy, they have romance, they have suspense, they have true crime, they have everything in there. It's fantastic. I happen to be such an addict that I have an Audible Premium Plus annual account, which gives me 24 credits all at once, but it does make each individual audiobook significantly cheaper, and those 24 credits don't even last me 1 year. I have to admit. So I spend a lot of time listening to Audible books, and I don't know what I would do in my life without them. If you'd like to try Audible for yourself, you can visit audible.com/costumingdrama or text costumingdrama to 500-500. Okay, so I'm feeling really good about these. I feel like they complete me as a Mickey ear wearer. These things are, the ear hole is still massive. They look proportional on my head, but you might want to bring them down another notch. Like, I don't know, I might wrap it around a Coke can or something next time to take it down just a little bit more, but I actually really like these. I think they're well done. Before I am done though, I am gonna pay a little attention to the back because, you know, you're standing in line at Disneyland and there will be people behind you. I don't think there's any need to go crazy on the back at all, but there are some like little globby areas where I've glued in this pine cone here or whatever, that I might want to add, you know, a little something here. So, and maybe over here a little bit, and just tuck in a few little things. So I'm just going to take care of that before I'm finished. Alrighty, these are how they turned out. I hope you guys like them. I think that they are massive and I also kind of love them. I think they are Mickey Mouse proportional to my head, which makes me excited. I might have taken them down just a little bit, but c'est la vie, you learn. Now you guys know for next time. I hope you guys have been enjoying all the content that I've been putting out in December. I have been trying to make up for the fact that I have not been doing Vlogmas, even though I wanted to, by increasing my output this month. So I hope it's been fun. I have, I think, 1 or 2 more videos for you this month too, so I hope you enjoy. I am going to take a little break at the beginning of the year, so if you don't hear from me for a little bit, that's not you, that's me, just chilling. My birthday's at the beginning of the month and I like to take that week off to just nap. So if you guys end up making these, please do tag me in pictures of them. I would love to see what you guys do. Also, you could totally extrapolate this method out to make other ones for other holidays, Halloween, Easter, Valentine's Day, whatever. You could also make themed ride versions. I've seen ones that are Tiki Lounge, those with little parrots in them. They're super cute. So you could use this method to make Disney ears of any kind. I just kind of like the ones that light up and I like the wreaths, so that worked for me. Anyway, if you guys liked this video, do give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't, and I will see you guys next time with another video. Bye guys!